And hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Buffalo Junior Sabres offseason podcasts, the COVID-19 edition. And we got a few people joining us today. We're expecting more. Joining me are Ryan and Melissa Burgess, General Manager and Head Coach Nick Tuzzolino, Coach Tim Kennedy, and we are expecting Jeff Boyd to jump in a few minutes. And we're also hoping for a very special guest who's had himself a pretty good week, Matteo Costantini, USHL draftee, of course, rookie of the year, just absolute phenom for the Junior Sabres. But we'll get to him in just a moment. First of all, hey, folks, how you been?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Doing okay. So far, nobody's running around the house with axes threatening to kill each other. So far, so good. Now you've got younger children in the home. Tim, you've got younger children at home. I guess the first question will be, how are your households adjusting to you guys being home?
Go ahead, Tim.
They're doing pretty well. My daughters are 5 and my son's 3, so we're doing the whole preschool from home thing, which is pretty good because there's not too much they don't that my wife and I don't know as far as like numbers, letters, stuff like that. And my son's kind of his attention span isn't there, so he's kind of the hassle. But it's been fun getting to kind of be their teacher now for the last 6-7 weeks.
What would you say you have the most fun doing with the lessons?
Probably the coloring. That's what I'm best at. My wife does everything else. So,
Nick, how about you?
Pretty much the same as Tim, just in a little bit of the opposite. My oldest is 5, and he's going through the schooling and reading and writing and doing his math books. So that's kind of making him feel like he's growing up fast. And the 3-year-old twins are having personalities every day. Riding their bikes, running around. The school version of it, I think phys ed's probably my specialty. But no, I couldn't imagine doing it. Hat goes off to my wife in that regard.
And we've got a guest here, and Jeff Boyd is now aboard. Jeff, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Of course, of all the times for my computer to decide that it wanted to do a hard reboot and update was exactly almost 7 o'clock on the dot. So sorry to be late, but happy to be here. See you all.
Hey, we've missed you. I've missed all you guys.
You're welcome.
So now, coaches, I got to ask you, you've got the younger ones at home. You've talked about helping out with the education. Are there any youth songs or songs that your kids love that you're finally just sick of? I know Baby Shark's one of those that a lot of parents scream at. Are there any songs that are driving you nuts right now?
For me, it's not so much songs as maybe some of the TV shows and their routines. There comes a point in time where you can only have Peppa Pig on so much, or hear something like that. But no, for the most part, music-wise, I make them to stay listening to country and the stuff that me and my wife have playing.
My younger daughter loves Peppa Pig, or loved it. Same thing. It was marathons, talking about jumping up and down in muddy puddles. Tim, how about you?
Yeah, we've kind of transitioned out of the songs. We kind of went through that last year where they would get stuck on 2 or 3 songs and then it would drive you nuts. So right now we're watching old YouTube videos. My wife used to watch when she used to go to dance. It's called like Kids in Motion. It's like from the 90s. So that's what we're doing right now. Just watching these Kids in Motion videos from the 90s with like Scott Baio. So,
Jeff, how are things your way?
Oh, as crazy as everyone else's are. No small children running around, so I'm lucky or not lucky in that regard, depending on what side of the world you're looking at it from. But just myself, my girlfriend, and our 2 small cats are running around like crazy, keeping me entertained. So, little bit of cabin fever, like everyone else is going through, but could always be worse. We're lucky to be in the position that we are. So.
Are you still going into your workplace?
I am. I'm one of like 4 people who's still going into the office every day. I work like 5 minutes from here, so it's a really boring, quick commute. It is nice to see different walls other than the 4 that are currently around me for at least part of the week. But yeah, I'm still going into the office at this point almost every day.
Ryan and Melissa, how are things?
Lucky gas is so cheap because drying has been one of my great escapes. Just getting out behind the wheel, play a little music. It's one of my favorite things to do if I get completely bored.
You like playing music? I would never have guessed.
I don't know what you want from me.
I think we're doing all right. Like you kind of said, cabin fever, definitely feeling it, but.
Now, Ryan, during the day, you work at the Leroy C. Coles branch of the Buffalo Erie County Public Library. which is now being used as a COVID testing site. In the meantime, since that branch is closed and you're not working there, what are you able to do for the library system from home?
Well, I've been able to put together a couple of flyers that have gone out. I've done at least one video program. I did read Zia's for Zamboni, which I thought was a pretty cool experience. And I almost brought home a bunch more books yesterday or the other day because she went in and processed 1,200 new library cards and mailed those out to patrons. So more story times coming, more technology help coming for some folks that certainly could use the help.
Melissa, how about you? What role are you able to do while doing the stay-at-home order?
So I do, just like I do social media for the Junior Sabres, I do social media for the library. So I'm doing a lot of that because we're really, putting stuff out there on Facebook and things. And like Ryan said, I actually went into the office 2 days this week. We had 1,200 people sign up for library cards over the last 2 months. So got to do a lot of mailing and, got a lot of paper cuts to show for it.
Let's get back to a little bit of hockey here. Tuz, TK, what was the 1920 season has been called off. There will be no playoffs, no championships determined. Now you've got the task of putting together a team for the 2021 season. Tell me about the challenge about evaluating talent and securing talent for a season, partly not knowing if we're going to be able to start the schedule on time, and not for the time being able to have any kind of camps or tryouts because all the rinks are closed.
Yeah. Well, I think like you hit the nail on the head there. It's just really uncertain times, not only for us but for the players too. So, when we have a phone call with one of our guys from last year, it's one of those things where I think a lot of guys are just looking for some guarantees. There's not going to be a lot of tryouts to go kind of earn your spot and earn your merit, so to speak. So we need to do our diligence with our returning guys and, guys like Tim and Sean Wallace, with all the other guys we've had, close to making our team and in the fray and in the area. And we need to sit down and figure out which guys are ready to finally make that jump for us. But like you said, the difficulty 100% is going to be the scheduling, what's going to happen, when's a tryout, is there a tryout, how that all goes aboard. I know we're approved to play. I got that notion the other day, so I know we're good to go as soon as the borders open and the league gets going. So like you said, just literally waiting for time.
Tim, tell me about having to evaluate talent when you can't actually go out to the rinks and see them this spring.
It's like pretty tough because when the season shut down and the U season shut down, it was kind of the time that we kind of get out there and see the kids play who are coming up. It's their state tournaments and then their national tournaments. And then, they're usually skating with us during the summertime at the Harbor Center. So, but I think we've seen these kids for the past year or two, like locally. So we kind of know what we're dealing with and we have a good feel for the kids locally. It's just, the kids from out of state or the kids that could come in from out of town that are playing here that you really got to do your work on because unfortunately you don't really get to see them at all because the world's kind of been shut down and we're at the mercy of this global pandemic. So it's more just getting out there, making phone calls, watching any kind of like YouTube clips or like videos that the kid can send you or an advisor can send you. And you just got to make sure that the staff as a whole just makes the right pick. You hope, but they never know.
Yeah, the Junior Sabres are the one U.S. team in an otherwise Ontario league. We do like to have a couple of Canadians on the team. Does this current situation perhaps take away our ability to recruit some Canadians for the next season?
No, I don't think so. Still hoping that maybe we get the ability to get one or two more Canadians allowed roster size wise. But with what we did 2 years ago, what we did last year, guys like Spencer and Declan even going to the OHL and Mateo doing what he did. There's Ty Glover. There's a lot of Canadians that are starting to be like, maybe I want to get out of Toronto. Maybe I want to get out of that kind of race down there and go try Buffalo. And so we've actually been getting a fair amount of reach out from Canadians lately. But again, it's kind of hard because we haven't been able to see them as much as we'd like.
Well, you've had players from the 1920 roster. two players drafted by the same USHL team, and then some other players drafted further down the Buffalo Junior Sabres chain. First of all, tell me about Mateo and Max both getting selected by the USHL.
Well, Max and Mateo, obviously, it's a great honor for them to get selected by Sioux City. Tim was alumni there when he played in the USHL. Their current head coach is a guy that I had played for, and we had done a fair amount of talking with him. Obviously, Mateo is a pretty sought-after hockey player coming into that draft, and everyone really starting to do their homework on him, so to speak. And it seemed like a decent landing spot for him if he wanted it. And it was one of those things where they asked us if we had any other guys that we deemed could step into the league and play and be ready to go. And obviously, we gave a list of a couple guys, Max being one of those guys on that list. And you watch highlights of Mateo, it's hard not to see Max on a lot of them. So it's it's kind of a nice attribute for him.
Yeah, Max, tons and tons of assists before he finally got his first goal of the regular season. And Jeff, I think you and I watched it when he finally got that first goal. It's like you'd swear he's just scored a goal in Game 7 overtime.
Yeah, for a guy who contributed so much, both on the stats and just the way that he created the offense, both at 5-on-5 and 5-on-4, quarterbacking that power play, I think that goal was just a lot of pent up. He had come so close so many times throughout the season to putting one in, and just it got deflected, hit off a body, got just wide, and finally got one in. Very well deserved for a guy who you look at Mateo leading the team in goals, but Max was so crucial to so many of those plays set up for both him and his teammates.
And Max Rojo, well, the numbers speak for itself. Now, Mateo, in addition to that, is also on the NHL Central Scouting radar.
Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I think just with the season that Mateo had, it's hard not to get on people's radar when you keep scoring goal after goal. What was really good about Mateo is that, usually when he goes through those highs, there's usually a dip. And with Mateo, there really was no dip. I think if you go back and look at his season stats, there might have been, after his first 6 or 7 games, there might have been 1 or 2 games where he didn't get a point. So I think that's what really sticks out, is that he was consistent the whole year. Once he kind of got his footing underneath him and he broke through with that first goal, he kind of rode that wave the whole season, and he never dipped. And then more and more people started taking notice, from USHL, the colleges, to the NHL scouts. And it's a tribute to him, because he goes from not being ranked the whole year to being the highest ranked player coming out of the OJHL, which I think is just really great for him.
Was there anything from a coaching side that you guys were able to do to help him kind of get his feet under him? Because that was something Mike and I noticed in his first few games. You could see how quick he was with his hands, how great of a skater he was, but there was just something, like it was a step off, or his shot was just going a little bit wide on him. Was there something that clicked, or you guys were able to work through with him that kind of helped him get that first step? Because once he got that first step, like you mentioned, it was all systems go.
I'll start it off just because the fact that, Tim won't give himself any credit for it, so I might as well. It's one of those things where, we watched him in that first, 6 or 7 games, and, he went scoreless. And we were like, we know he's got the talent, and, we went back and watched video, and it's just little stuff, of him not watching the puck and, teaching him on how to find space on his power play. And Coach Tim and him sat down. I don't know. I think they started doing it probably about that 8th, 9th game before games, sitting there and just going over little clips. Nothing too big to overwhelm him. Just little intricacies in his game, little detail. And I think it started off as helping him in the game, and then I think it ended up being a confidence thing that he couldn't breathe without. And it ended up helping in the long run, because when you sit down with somebody like Tim and go over video nonstop, even if you're just watching somebody else doing your job, it's just constant learning. And I would attribute pretty much a lot of his success this season to that.
Yeah, with Mateo, if you go back and look at his first 6 games, he was getting chances, just not scoring. And then, the things we worked on, or that we watched on video, it's just little stuff that, Nick knows that you get taught in probably like your 2nd or 3rd year, 4th year pro, where I wish somebody would have taught me it when I was 16, 17 years old. It's just the little things that help you become a complete player. And I'll give all the credit to Mateo. You show him on video, which until this age, I don't think kids really watch themselves on video. And once you watch yourself on video, that's when you really see like what you're doing and what you can do better. So I think it's a huge eye-opener for most kids the first time that they watch video. And huge credit to Mateo. Once we showed him the video that we wanted to show him, he kind of took off from there, and all the success he had was him.
Yeah, and to be honest, I guess the best coaching we might have done was picking our leadership, because you know, a lot of Mateo's success as well came from, you know, his two wingers, and it wasn't necessarily from a point aspect. A lot of it was just making sure he was being the right kid every day, and you know, putting in the work every day, and they did that too. And you know, you look at where Sis has gotten to go, you look at where Berkey's potentially going to get to go, you look at where Mateo is headed. So it's you know, there's proof to it, and that's the important part.
Now, let's look up and down some of the other players on the roster. I want to start with some of the younger prospects. Aiden McCarthy got called up as an AP for a few games, but Jeff and I observed that he looked like he was immediately comfortable at the junior A level. Do you think he's ready to make the jump next year?
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, maybe even a higher jump. Who knows? I mean, that's what we have in this league, is understanding that kids are going to try and do what they can. But you know, Aiden for us was one that obviously not a lot of people know, but he practiced with us all last season prior, when he was done with his youth season over in Wheatfield. So he'd been skating with us for a while. He played for our 18s this year and obviously got his call up. And you know, from a development coach standpoint, where my job was at the academy, is I spent a fair amount of time with him. So you know, getting him on the bench and getting him in game, is he had a comfort with me. He understood, you know, what I expected. He understood what his job was. I mean, at the end of the day, you come from a bloodline of hockey players. Like you have a good idea of how to be a gamer and how to prepare yourself. So again, like, another credit to him, a kid who literally was in and out of our lineup. And you know, if we would have gone to that second round and his season would have ended, he would have been in every single game in that second round of playoffs. So it would have been one of those things where I would have loved to have seen the season progress a little longer.
Jeff, you look like you're lined up to with a follow up there.
No, it's just that was the one big hurdle for you guys. I know we talked about it during the games, but the injuries and suspensions and everything during round one, it's interesting to think of how many chips were just so close to falling back into the lineup. You guys went through that first round and really were doing it without all the cards in your hand still at that point.
Who among the younger players last year do you think have the potential to emerge as the next leaders on the team?
Go ahead, Tim.
You know, I think we got a really good young group, like good nucleus. I think like Colby Seitz is a kid that can really like step up and be a leader. Him and Alex Cicero were really good friends. And just going back to Nick's point, I think like our the group this year that was leading the team was so strong that I think if you just follow the guys this year, you know, Swartzy, Sis, all those guys, the assistant captains, Berkey, if you just watch how they prepared every day, how they played, and how they took it serious, I think you learned. I think that you learn a lot, and I think those guys are going to step up next year, and they're going to fill that role pretty well.
Yeah, I think as well, somebody like a Nolan Gorecki kind of reminds me. I've been kind of saying this in the last little bit here. Kind of reminds me of a Cicero, to where, you know, he had some really highlight reel goals this year. He had some moments where me and Tim kind of looked at each other and kind of gave it like okay, we've caught him on video, maybe throwing the odd sucker punch after his line mate scores a goal. But for me, he could be that kid who's a quiet leader, and all of a sudden next year a D1 school jumps on him. I mean, his compete is through the roof. He puts the puck in the net. He makes every guy on the other team want to, you know, take a piece of him. He's a player that I don't know how exactly we got him in our lineup, but I'm so thankful that we did, to be honest. Like, he was a very key piece for us. And
he started the season sick. I mean, he didn't really get a chance to jump in. Colby didn't till a few games in. He had to battle mono first. But tell me about the impact that he made upon finally getting the all clear to join the roster.
Yeah, you know, I think it was tough early in the season. We had a lot of injuries, and I mean, we're not going to use that as excuses, but we had two kids go down with mono. Like Logan Tobias got hurt right away. So we just had a ton of injuries that, you know, that's what hockey is. They're injuries, and you just got to move on. But I think if you go back and you look at like Colby Seitz's points per game and just I mean, God, I think every overtime goal there in the month of March and February, I think he scored. And he was huge on playoff series.
That Markham game I keep going back to. That game in Markham was insane.
Yeah,
game tire, the Doran's game. Yep, Doran's first game.
Yep. Yeah. And then if you,
and that's all I gotta say on the subject.
Yeah. So when they look at like Sightsee and like Toby, they've been product of our junior Sabres. They played 18 the year before. And Toby, if we could have just kept him healthy this year, I think he might have scored like 40 goals. he's just a hockey player. And, you know, those two kids, I think, have a really bright future this year.
You also got a goaltending core that Jeff and I observed when they started the year. Just seemed very, very green, perhaps a little in over their heads, but both your goaltenders, you know, Luke and Chase, settled in very nicely. Luke especially, I mean, he really emerged as someone who proved that he belonged at the junior A level. Tell me about how you watched them evolve over the course of the season.
Well, I mean, obviously Tim can hit on this when I'm done too, but it was kind of our biggest, I'd say my biggest goalie challenge in the last couple of years, when it probably should have been one of my easiest. You know, I had two guys who were pushing really hard to be number one, and they both learned different lessons this year. Pav learned, you know, it's hard work to be a go-to guy. It's hard work to be a goalie all the time, to prepare and to stretch and be, you know, physically ready to play. Where you have, you know, Clarkie battled a couple injuries and, you know, coming back a little early and going through some of those stretches. So he was learning a different mental side of the game. So if you look at how both those kids evolved from, you know, Clark's start of the year where he was like lights out, and then he caught a little injury bug, and Pav had to weather, you know, a good 12 to 13 games where the team was able to get on a little bit of a run, and then they both did it together down the stretch. And, you know, we were sitting in that office after the Burlington series saying, you know, like maybe we what are we thinking about game one in Oakville? Like, you know, like we know we have, you know, we could rest and we could do this, and we had that option all year, and it was awesome to have. I think having two 2002s going head to head like that was that internal competition that you need. They were really good friends, which is awesome. But you could tell when they were on the ice that they wanted to be better than the other guy. And, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously, you know, like that's part of the job and the position. And, you know, I believe that, you know, we should be able to do that again this year in a strong facet. So I'm really looking forward to the goaltending position.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one aspect of our team this year where, you know, we felt really good from the start of the year. Even though we were losing those first few games by a lot, that was the one position that we weren't looking to make a change. We thought we had two really good young goalies. Just our team wasn't playing the way that we needed to play yet, and I think those guys only got better as the year went on. It's just you know, that's how a season goes. You know, you have your highs and your lows, and I think both those guys learned that this year, going through it together. The only problem with being a goalie is, you know, there's only one net. So at some point, you know, someone takes over. But I think our team was really, you know, comfortable the whole year, whether it was Clarkie in net or it was Luke. And I think those guys had like tremendous season as junior, and I think the sky's the limit for both of them as well.
And they did both come in very, very young, so they've got that year's experience in Junior A under their belt, with you know, good couple years left of eligibility. Tell me how important that is, that they came in so young and got settled in at the Junior A level, and are now regular and comfortable at the Junior A level.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing for us is, you know, understanding what our goal is as a team. I mean, yes, these kids are young and they have, you know, a bank of years of junior hockey left. But the whole point of what the Junior Sabres are for us is we want to take that core and transition them as best we can to get to that next level, whether it be D1, whether it be the OHL, whether it be, you know, Sioux City in the USHL. You know, so having two 2002 goalies is great. Having a whole roster of 2002 forwards and defensemen is great. But if we do our job next year, we're going to have guys picked off left and right with lots of options. So that's kind of the hiccup we deal with by having our roster this way, but it's kind of a good problem to have. So that's our struggle headed into it. But at the same time, it's kind of like the cherry on top for these guys. You know, they decided to be junior ready at that 02, 01 age. And, you know, they get the fruits of it, the USHL drafts, the invites to camps, et cetera, et cetera. So we let them run and do that sort of thing, knowing that they have a home here. And we try and do our best just to manage it, to be honest with you.
And further down the Buffalo Junior Sabres chain, you've got some younger divisions. A couple of years ago, the 15-onlys went on and won a national championship. They're getting older and starting to get into that junior range. Tell me about the younger divisions and the potential depth that you see when it comes time to replace some of the players that you expect are probably heading on to bigger things next year.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about having that youth program with our junior team. We get to work with those kids on a weekly. I think we work on them with at least one team once a week. So we see them weekly. That 15U team, they won the national title a few years ago. So they're if they didn't make the junior team last year, they were playing the first year of 18U, and we see that big core from that team hopefully playing a huge role on our team this next year. And then you have our 16U team that was very competitive last year. I think they were ranked top 6 or 7 the whole year. So there's a few kids off that team that hopefully can make the jump too. And then I think, as we keep going, we're going to keep going younger and younger. And like Nick said, if we do our job and the kids have a good year, then hopefully that next year they'll have a lot of options.
Okay. Ryan, Melissa, Jeff, anything you want to throw in or got any questions?
I do have one that kind of follows up on what Tim just mentioned. So Tuz, this is now your second full season you're heading into where you've got both the coaching role and the GM role. Is there anything differently than how you're approaching building this roster for this year now that you've had the year to kind of put a roster together, see how it played out, and then get to reevaluate now in the offseason?
Usually I would say yes if things were, I'm going to throw these up there, normal, but they're not right now, obviously. Things I'm going to do first is staff wise. I'm going to elevate Tim to probably an assistant general manager role and an associate head coach. I'm going to do that, and that's a big thing too, just to iron out our conversations with people right now. So internally, we're going to elevate some of that stuff. Like I said, past that, we're just going to really make sure that we build on character. That's on top of the age group that we've done. We've built a lot on personality. You look at a guy like Scott Ramekers from a couple of years ago. Nolan Gorecki started as a personality. Andrew Clouden started as a personality, ended up our top 4, top 5 type of defenseman for us. So we love the skill and the talent of our hockey guys, don't get me wrong, but we also know what type of personality it takes to be a successful hockey player. So those are the 2 things we check off the most. So I think headed into this season, for me, I love seeing your stats and your skill, but as in my seat, I want to know more about you and what you're going to do to our locker room. As you can tell, we know how strong that can help a group and also how it can hurt a group. So, that's always our main focus is, get a strong room, create strong individuals, and let the process take over.
Well, Nick, you were a player back during the franchise's Buffalo Lightning era. Then you moved on to the OHL professional career. Tim, you had college hockey and a pro career yourselves. Now that you're in the coaching position, when you look back on your playing days, are there any lessons that you learned when you were players that you're applying to the players today? And if you observe them, whether it's on the ice or off the ice, is there anything that you remember from your playing days that is proving useful in kind of steering them in the right direction today?
From me, it's first of all, I don't think you have a long enough podcast to answer that question. I think we base off everything we do from our best and worst experiences. If I could single out one thing, it's the accountability in your own game. Knowing when you're at fault, knowing when your role, your job. Understanding that it's a team game, and understanding that understanding your accountability is everything. And the biggest thing past that is the honesty in it, being able to come and knock on our door when you're having a problem and represent yourself. I think the biggest thing is we're teaching these kids to learn to represent themselves, where before maybe mom or dad called or somebody else did, and now it's the accountability of them to knock on the door and talk about their ice time, to talk about why they maybe sat that game or sat that shift, and so on and so forth. But that's the number one thing I think I take from my playing experience.
Tim, how about you?
Yeah, no, I think that's huge too. With Nick saying, we tell the kids like our door's always open, and we'd rather have you walk through that door than get a text or a phone call from your parents or one of your advisors. We say that the first year of junior hockey is like the first year of the rest of your career, however long that may be or short. But it's where you gotta become like a young man, and you have to, I think, be accountable for your own game. And then just going back to the on ice part of it. I think we really try to preach to the kids that what you do in practice will pay off in the games. And I think that's a huge thing, because if you saw our team this year, we were really good during the third periods, and I attribute that back to, we were one of the best conditioned teams in the league, because from the beginning of the year, we conditioned like crazy. And I think you saw on teams, or with this team in general, that we were a good third period team. And I think that goes back to the work that the kids put in during practices, during those, July practices, those August practices, those middle of December with the dog days of the season practices. That really helped them strive and become really great, and they were great down the stretch. So just the lessons that I've learned that I try to tell the kids is just, if you put the work in practice, then the work will come through in the games. Other than that, I think being a coach is the most stressful thing you can do, because you have there's literally, you have no control over the game except who you throw over the boards, and then the kids just do it from there.
And to be honest with you, just to hit on that with Tim, I have never played and or coached a team that played in third periods like that group. That group played in third periods like I've never seen. They came out as different teams. Like they were getting to a point where I would look at Tim in between the first and second, or the second and third, and I'd be like, they're just laying off right now because they know they're going to hit it in the third. And sure enough, when that puck drops in the third, it's like, I look at him and I'm like, they did it to me again. But that's their motivation. And it's like we've talked about on most of this call, it's accreditation of the leadership. Like, he didn't panic in there. They didn't panic in there. They were able to flip a switch and do it all season. They didn't just do it a couple weekends. They did it all year.
Well, Tuz, you mentioned that part of your routine this time of day is having to do the bedtime routines. Were you able to get them to bed successfully?
I don't know. I can hear some rumblings upstairs. I haven't been screamed at to get up there and handle one yet. So I think I'm doing okay.
That's good. Well, I mean, I know we kind of talked about this at the start of the show about adjusting to life at home for a little while during this stay-at-home order. But what is it when we finally get the all clear? We get to return to the rink and kind of resume normal hockey life. Will there be one thing about this experience that you'll appreciate the most as we get back to life as we know it?
I think for myself, I think when I was playing professionally, I took for granted the time off during the summertime, and these last 7 weeks being able to spend at home with my kids and my family have been awesome. Because last summer was my first summer working full time, so I kind of missed out on things I normally wouldn't have. But so this time at home has been great, but on like a global standpoint, I guess you just take for granted, or you just see like how good you had it in the world, and how quickly that can be taken from you. And don't take anything for granted, because this thing happened, it seemed like in a week, and the world went from being on a normal everyday routine to now the kind of state that we're living in right now, kind of the unknown of phase 1 through 4 when it's going to start to happen. So just don't take too much for granted, and life's never that bad.
That sounds spot on for me there. I mean, I'm on the same page as Tim. You learn how simple. As cool as this call is and what we're doing, we're talking about a sport in the grand scheme of things. So I'm thankful to be doing that as opposed to the other option.
Ryan and Melissa, I'm going to throw this one to you now because Ryan, you went through all this trouble to put a video game together that featured OJHL teams. How's that season coming along?
There's still some work to do roster-wise. Tim, Tuz, I don't know if you guys happen to see, but a couple weeks into this whole lockdown thing, I decided to do a franchise mode in NHL 20 with 32 OJHL teams. They have uniforms, whole 9 yards. My problem when I went to start in franchise mode, because I haven't edited any ratings yet, all our guys are in, but because the ratings aren't edited, they're in Rochester. So I have to figure that out for the whole league if I'm going to get a 32 team going.
You got some time.
Oh, I got all the time in the world. It's like I can drive a DeLorean.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool the one day we went live on Twitch, and we had some of the guys, like Luke was watching, and Luke was in the game, and I know he got a kick out of that.
Cool.
I'm sure he did.
And Jeff, I guess my question for you is, no soccer play-by-play for you, no baseball play-by-play for me this summer. So how should we keep our pipes sharp for these guys for the fall?
It's a good question. I've never in the 4 to 5 years I've been doing hockey, basketball, soccer, whatever, play-by-play, I've never actually had more than 2 or 3 months where I wasn't doing something like this. So I'm doing stuff like this, trying to do some podcast stuff. And if anyone has some cool video clips they need voiceover, just catch me on the internet. I'll call pretty much anything remotely resembling a sport these days to pass some of the time. So I'm open to suggestions. I don't know. It's a brand new horizon for me.
I'm getting desperate. I'm to a point where I might just call play-by-play and my dog wandering in the yard. It's like, what is this? Oh, she's stooping. Oh, and yes. So, just whether it's the dog just kind of trotting around the yard or marble racing or goodness gracious.
I'll watch Korean baseball at 5:30 in the morning.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We can all watch the Korean baseball at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. We got Korean baseball. I'm sure we'll all be on that bandwagon soon enough. So
Yeah.
Just the time zone with the games all being at 2 a.m. makes it a little tough, but
yeah, probably not. Well, gentlemen and ladies, any final thoughts?
Just want to say, love what you guys do. This is a great idea. Keep doing what you guys are doing. There would be no Junior Sabres if it wasn't for you guys, so keep it up.
Yeah, I would like to say that too. The job you guys did the whole season was awesome, and thanks for having me on tonight. And I hope you guys stay safe and healthy during the next few weeks here, and hopefully we can see each other soon.
And guys, it's been great. You guys have both done a good job and made this a fun team to cover and call for in the past season. We look forward to seeing what you guys have in store for us in the 2021 season.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Ryan and Melissa or Jeff, any final thoughts?
no, it's good to just be talking about sports for a little bit. I know they feel like it's been forever and it's going to be forever until they're back to normal. But it's good for a little bit of a break from the same old routine of nothing happening and days are the same and time is meaningless. So it's just good to see everyone and get to talk about stuff like this for a little bit.
All right. Well, folks, we'll just wrap it up here. Tim, Nick, Jeff, Ryan, Melissa, thank you all so much for getting together tonight. And this has been the Buffalo Junior Sabres off-season podcast. We thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay home, stay healthy, and we'll catch you next time, if not at the rink, here on the line. Have a great night.